Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Thursday, the 12th day of October, 2023. Well, let's see. I hope y'all are having a good week. Tomorrow is my birthday, and I don't know how I feel about it. And usually I don't care, but I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's weird. I feel kind of odd. But anyway, I think we're just going to go to the local Chinese food place and get some Chinese food and bring home for dinner. That's what I said I wanted. And because my husband's going to make me a spice cake for my birthday. And he makes really good spice cake. It's really excellent. He usually does it in a bundt pan. But if not, sometimes he makes them in cupcakes. And I don't know. He likes to bake. Anyhow. Let's see. Let's go ahead and see what our oracle card is. We'll talk about that here before we get started on the reading. For those of you who haven't been here before, normally I don't do an oracle card first, but I got this deck and I've been playing around with it and I like it. So I thought I'd just share it with us, with you guys before we get started on the readings. This particular one is from the Wild and Sacred Feminine deck. And it's the traveler and faith. We see the moon's phases there in each corner. We see a womb-like labyrinth that the girl with the backpack with the walking stick is beginning to walk. But that's almost like following a pattern. And when you talk about faith, you're just letting faith guide your steps, guide your decisions, guide your choices. And when you draw this card from this deck, it's basically saying now's the time to make a choice. Are you going to stay within your comfort zone, or are you going to step outside of that? And are you going to look for something new, go in search of something new without a predetermined path? There's the element of faith there. That it's time to just go ahead and pursue new adventure, new ideas, new experiences. No matter the challenge, no matter the delay, no matter how confused you might get along the way, and you're wondering, why am I here? Well, you're where you're supposed to be at each place along the way, and trust that you're there to learn something about every experience. Either it's about the experience itself, or it's about you within it and how you process all of it. But it's the idea that you are your own traveler, and every time you take a step in a new direction outside your comfort zone, you're embarking upon a new path, one that unfolds as you walk. So consider that today and see where that takes you. Anyhow, let's go ahead and take the Elder Futhark rune, the above side of things, the higher self side of things here, the significator for the reading. I like to make the runes the significators because it kind of gives us a direction to go with the cards. And normally, once in a blue moon, I have a little bit of a struggle to say, well, what does this got to do with that? But typically we can find some relationship there. Here we have Nathis. Nathis is the 10th rune of the Elder Futhark, and it is the Norn rune of the future. There's 3 Norn runes. The Norns were the ones, the goddesses, the 3 witches that gave Odin the runes for enlightenment, as a means of enlightenment, as he hung upside down from the world tree. And with Nathis is the rune of the future. As I said, it's the friction within to manifest. It's the inner fire. It's the inner will. It's manifesting goals, overcoming restriction, binding, positive change. And it also means need. Nathis means need. That would be the main keyword for this. But it's that inner desire to create. It's that inner desire to manifest something new. It's like if you look at Hagalaz, which would be the 9th rune, you're looking at destruction or transformation within established boundaries or within a fixed framework. So it's not destroying everything. It's really the Hagalaz is thought to be the witch rune, and so it's really kind of the rune of witchcraft, where you're trying to influence something without destroying everything in the process. It's just you want to tweak things a little bit. And that's the thing about that. Isa, the 11th rune of the Elder Futhark, the third Norn rune, that would be the rune of the present moment. But with Nathis, you're looking at the issue of how am I going to manifest today something new in my life? Whether or not you're talking about the oracle card, traveler and faith. How am I going to manifest that? Am I going to have a whole lot of control about it, or am I going to allow the circumstance to happen and then I respond to that? How are you going to do that today? Let's take a look at the Geomancy rune, though. This is manifestation, though, from a higher perspective, from higher self, and allowing. It's almost that you're using that energy to transmute ego into spirit, so that ego is not controlling the outcome of something. Let's see what we have. 1 for fire. 1 dot for air, 2 for water, and okay. We have poor. Now poor, did we have poor on? Well, I don't know where that is. I don't know where my little list is. I think it's actually behind my video screen here, so I won't worry about that. But poor is the little boy energy. I think we had Puella, and Puella is the little girl energy. But poor is, I had 2 boys. I've got 2 grandsons. They've got a ton of energy, and sometimes they lack impulse control. Their thinking is a little bit scattered, but they really get ahead of themselves. It's not a really negative rune. It's just having some youthful energy where maybe you don't think first. And so I think that before doing something, but I think when you combine Nathis and Pur together, then it's the friction within, or the inner will to control your impulses, from a higher perspective, basically. Understanding the real need to do that. And again, Nathis invokes need. And in this case, it's the need to control the scattered impulses that you might associate with a young boy. A lot of, and it doesn't matter, you can be an adult and express yourself this way. I know a lot of people that really, it's like, what did you not think? It's like, no, I didn't. I thought it would be good at the time. But it's being able to see the bigger picture and to control the impulse to just act, out of curiosity without really, thinking about the whole thing. But let's take a look at the cards and see if we can define this a little bit further. Cut the deck, take the lower half. Well, we have 1 card from the suit of cups, 1 from the suit of wands, and 1 from the suit of swords. And the 1 from swords is a court card. It's the page of swords. But we start with the 2. Let's see, 2 and 7 is 9. Let's see if we have any. No, not these is 10. So that would reduce to 1. Well, if you do the overall numerology, then the 2 and the 9 and the 1, or rather 2 and 7 and the 1, not a 9, you would have 10. Which would align with Nathis, and then the idea of new beginnings. So let's go ahead and take the 2 of cups. Here we have a couple, a man and a woman. We see they each are holding a chalice. The man is actually stepping toward the woman and reaching out. He steps forward with his left foot, and he reaches out with his right hand while he's holding the chalice in his left hand. That's the receptive side, would be the left. The projective side would be the right. It's also feminine versus masculine. Here, and you see a winged lion's head there above the caduceus. So essentially, 2 can mean a lot of different things. It can mean balance. It can mean healing. It can mean love, reciprocity. But here, I think that it's the healing of some kind of rift between the two people. And he's the one that's making the overture. Although she seems to be reaching out a little bit more with her chalice. Maybe she's offering it to him and he's going to take it from her. I don't know. But you see the home in the background. You see the dual line of demarcation there, separating the two aspects of the card there. They've gotten away. So if there's been an argument or something here in your life, maybe it's suggesting that you need to get away from the area where the argument took place, likely the home, and get out away from that so that you're not influenced by your surroundings, and come back together and allow the partnership to heal that way. Sometimes you stay in the place where the argument happened and there's just too much trigger there. There's too much energy that's left and it influences the conversation you want to have. And so the Two of Cups is likely suggesting that maybe you had an argument with a partner, a friend or somebody that's close to you, and it's time to have a conversation about that and try to heal the problem between you. But to do it, you need to kind of go somewhere else to do that. This can also indicate polarity. If it's not about you and someone else, then it could mean healing the polarity within. Maybe you've been a little too pushy or aggressive, and that's sort of not really who you are. And so you need to figure out, well, how did I get there? What's causing that? And to bring that balance back between the receptive side of self and the projective side of self, or the masculine and feminine. I'm not comfortable calling it masculine and feminine. I've said this before here. To me, people hear that and they think gender. And not everyone's going to think that, but I think a lot of people do. And I don't want that to be confused with the masculine resonance and feminine resonance within. It's not. It's an energy. And the receptive or feminine would be one that's just a little bit more passive, or reserved, maybe is another word you could use. And then the masculine or projective would be someone who takes the step forward, who initiates. And that seems to be what's going on here. But I think what I'm going to do is read it as there's been an issue, and you need to come together with your partner and heal it. But the healing's got to take place outside of the area where it happened. That's the only thing. Here, maybe in finding your balance, which 7 is about balance, it's also about observation. It's letting things come to a rest. If you've envisioned the scales and you see the pans coming to a rest, to figure out, where you are, where, if it's going to be even, or if it's going to be, one's heavier than the other, whatever, but you let it stop moving around and stop, essentially. And essentially that's what he's doing. He's getting above it all, and he sees all of this stuff coming in on him. You see 6 staffs below him, and he's holding the 7th. He's standing his ground. I don't ever recommend standing in this particular posture, though. I used to teach martial arts, so this is not how you want to approach conflict or someone who's coming to attack you, leaving, the groin area open to be struck or kicked or what have you. So don't ever do that, but in this case, and his feet are also going out, which means someone could push you backwards very easily. But anyway, I digress. This card just irks me completely. It's like, oh my God, if I had a student that stood like this in class, I'd be like, did I fail you? Anyway, but here about 7 is getting above it all to see what's really happening and standing your ground while you're doing it. So there may be something about the conversation here where you need to stand your ground, but you need to allow things to settle out and be clear with what you want to say to the other person. Perhaps there was really something that one person did, and or maybe has accused you of, or something, where you're going to have to be very firm about what it is you expect and what it is you want, from whatever is happening here, the kind of conversation you're having, whatever healing that needs to take place. It doesn't mean that you give up what you want. It doesn't mean that you give up what you need, especially if someone has disrespected boundaries or has basically ignored your needs, or just decided, well, no, what I want is more important than what you want. Well, no, what you want, it matters too. And paired with this particular card, now I wouldn't necessarily read this way otherwise, but paired with this other card, with the Two of Cups, I really think that you have to stand in your own integrity. That's part of the reason that she's standing very, very straight here. She's just saying, you know what, this is how I feel, and this is what I need from you, and I'm not going to compromise that, especially if you're going to go and do something that does compromise it. So I'm going to assert myself in a quiet way, in a very receptive way, where I'm not going to demand anything, but I'm just simply going to state, this is what I need. This is what I need from you. And I think that that's sort of, I don't know. I look at her, she just seems very, I want to say noble, but not in the sense of royalty noble, because there's so much royalty through the tarot, but she has integrity. She has dignity. Maybe that's really the better word to use for her. She has dignity within this. And whatever things that the other person might want to say to you, which could be represented by the staffs down here, by the wands, you have to stand your own ground and invoke Nathis, essentially, right? To very, very, with a lot of dignity and integrity, just say, look, this is what I want. This is what I need from you. This is how I want to define our boundaries. This is how I want to define our relationship and my contribution to that. And this is just where I need it to go. And we can't have things that compromise that. The poor energy could be the man here. And I only define it that way because he's taking the first step. It's as if he's done something to cause a problem between the two of them. And he's coming to say, you know what, I screwed up, I'm sorry. And so it really, when they do that, you see, then it opens the door for you to then say, okay, great, thank you, I appreciate that. And I want the relationship to work. These are the things I need. And so it basically opens that door for you to say that to somebody. And it doesn't really make any difference if it's a man and a woman, or two women or two men, or if the woman is the one that caused the problem and is really, and is embodied by this person. I'm not going to define it down specifically to a man and a woman and the guy did something wrong, because maybe it's not. Maybe it's the other way around. So just keep that in mind as well. And then we have the Page of Swords. Pages are students. They're seekers. They're travelers on the path of faith. Anyway, but with swords, this is the air element, okay? And part of the air element is communication. It's about legal stuff and balance and justice and all of that. But it's also about taking a risk. And sometimes when you are stating what you want and what you need for somebody, especially when the door has been opened for that sort of discussion to happen because the other person's done something, you have to take the risk to say what you want, to ask for what you want and say, I need this. And for some people, that's a big risk, to share what you really need, because you're always afraid, well, I'm never going to be important enough, for that to even matter. And the fact is that this is the time where if somebody's saying that they're sorry, and I messed up here, I did something and I regret it, they're doing it because you matter to them. They're doing it because they want the relationship to be successful, and they did something that maybe impacted that a little bit, or maybe a lot, depending on what it is. And I think that what I also like about this card is not only is the page leaning into the future, the page is also looking back at the past, which I find interesting. So he or she with the page, because it could, depending on this, to me this looks more like a boy than a girl, although oftentimes in other decks where they're not called the page, they're called the princess of swords or the princess of wands or what have you. And then the knight is the prince. So but again, it depends on if it's a more hermetic deck, I think, maybe, than this one is, although it is a hermetic deck. Sometimes you'll see ones that are more associated with the Kabbalah and all of that. And those are the ones I think that you'll usually see it be, instead of page, you'll see princess. So you look at the Thoth deck, Crowley's Thoth deck, he has it that way. And there's some others that do the same. Not a big deal, really, but if you're trying to determine whether or not it's a guy or a girl, it's just one of those things. In this case, the page looks like a male person, but he's looking back at what he's learned and what he's brought with him in order to take the risk that he needs, to the intellectual risk, if you will, to say what he needs to say and move in the direction he needs to move. The Page of Swords, again, is a risk taker. He's diplomatic, but he can also be petty when that gets ill-dignified, especially if it's reversed or something. That might be some pettiness that's going on there. But there's a lot of movement here. You see the clouds. The sword almost cuts through them, doesn't it? You see the birds flying above, almost in a lasso type of a pattern there, isn't it? But the ground almost looks like it's even moving under his feet. So things are shifting. And what you need to say has to do with how you feel. And that, I think, would align then with him looking to the past here. This is how I feel. And it may feel risky to do that. But in order to heal, you have to. Assuming that's what you want to do. And in this case, it's looking like that's what's going on here. And with the one numerology overall between Nathis, the 7 and the 2, that adds up to 10, that reduces to 1. You add the 1 and the 0 together to get the single digit when you do the numerology. The only ones I don't do that with are the master numbers, the 11, the 22, and the 33. I just think that they hold a power on their own, and I don't like to reduce them. So I'll pull them out and identify that and then do the numerology from there. But here with the 10, that reduces to 1, and that's new beginnings. And that's one of the interpretations of Nathis, is invoking a new beginning, and invoking the will to manifest a new beginning. And I think that, if she's really upset with this guy, him taking the first step is a positive thing to do. Now, if you're that person who needs to take that first step to initiate, the apology, if you are this person, irrespective if you're a man or a woman, it doesn't really matter, then do that. Take the first step, and then be willing to hear what the other person will just has to say about it all, and what they need. Allow them to stand their ground if necessary, and to demand better if that's what they need to do. Or conversely, if that's what you need to do, to take that risk to do that. This is and what you could end up with is a brand new beginning between the two of you, a new level of honesty that can happen here today. But it's controlling the impulses. It seems like poor then would mean that there was a lack of impulse control here, where whoever this represents, either you or your partner, has done something impulsive and is now reaching out and saying, I'm sorry about that. I should not have done that, and I value our relationship, or whatever they say, right? But again, the recommendation is that it happens away from the home, the place where it happened. If an argument broke out at a restaurant, don't go to the restaurant and have the conversation. In other words, if it happened at home, then maybe go for a walk or something, or go to a neutral ground. Anytime you see this, is there always like a neutral place right here where there's nothing but just maybe sand or dirt or what have you. There's not even grass growing. So it's going to a neutral spot away from where the argument happened, away from where the difficulty happened, and find a way to talk to one another in a way that respects each other's position, standing your ground if need be, especially if this is something that is non-negotiable. Because there's just some things in relationships that are non-negotiable, right? And that may have to be part of the conversation, and the other person may not like it, but at the same time, they're the one that did the transgression. It wasn't if you're this person, you're not this person, and you're not the one that did the transgression and who needs to step forward to initiate the healing process. But it takes tremendous will to not get angry and have your own impulse control issues when it gets down to this moment of where you're coming together and having that conversation. It's very easy to want to get angry, and if you can control some of that, then that's probably for the best. It doesn't mean that you're not angry. You can say, I'm really angry about this and I need time, or whatever, however the conversation takes place. But the risk to allow that process to unfold is there with the Page of Swords. Keeping your values, which involved with, him looking toward the past. It has to do with what his values are, and his own foundation of how he sees relationships. If you want fidelity, if that's what you both agreed to in your relationship, then it has to be there. And if someone does something else, well, that's a problem, right? And again, I'm not saying that that's what happened here. It could be maybe there was just an argument where you really disagree about one thing or another, and one person, in this case the guy, had a lack of impulse control with poor, and maybe ran his mouth when he should have shut up, right? And he said way too much, and he insulted her maybe. And so it's not the end of the world, but at the same time, it's really not a good thing that happened, and you got to deal with it. And I just think the Two of Cups is suggesting that you go to neutral ground when you do that, and stand your ground and say, this is what I need. I can't have this kind of, I don't need cheap shots. I don't need, or, whatever it was, I'm not comfortable with that. And I can't be in your life if this is going to happen. This is not okay to be mean and insulting and low blows and cheap shots and things like that, just so that you feel better about yourself. That can't really happen, right? And so maybe that's an example of a problem that you could have with somebody that then needs to be healed. And again, standing your ground does not mean that you can't forgive, that you can't move forward. It just means that these are the things that are really important to me, and I need this to be the way it is. And if it can't be, then we need to make another decision here. 2 is also about decisions. And so maybe, you come together and you just decide, well, we're not going to work this out. I mean, it could be like that as well. You've stood your ground. You're not getting anywhere. And so maybe you just need to go your own way for a while and maybe check in with each other later, and maybe the relationship can resume. But if not, and you're working it out in that moment, if someone is hurt, if that other person has really hurt you, you have a right to say what you need and what you want from that person. And that's where I think the 7 of Wands is coming in. And there's a risk involved when you do that he may just say, or she may just say, yeah, I'm not going to do that. So you take that risk when you express yourself, but it's something you have to do nevertheless. And it takes a tremendous amount of will, I think, to do that, especially if that's a scary thing for you. If you're used to just saying, if you don't have a problem like that, well, that's cool. But, like I do, I can say what I think, I can say what I want, but I can tell you that there are times when I have a very difficult time doing so because I don't know how the other person's going to react. And I want them to react in the way I need them to. I need them to understand. In other words, I need them to see and feel and understand what I'm saying. And I think the fear comes in, and where the risk comes in is that they won't. I'll do it, but I'm risking that they won't react the way I want them to. So I think that's where the risk part comes in. So again, I think for today, if there is something that has happened in your life with a partner and there needs to be some kind of healing, if you're the one that caused the issue, then you need to take the initial step. It needs to be on neutral ground. If you're the one who was hurt, then you maintain your own dignity, but you take that risk to say what it is you need from that person, and move forward, from there. So however that manifests, right? But you have a chance with this one numerology overall here to have a sense of new beginnings here in the relationship. So, I think that it's, I think you have to decide, is the relationship worth that risk? Maybe that's another way to look at it. So anyhow, that's it. I think we did it. Thanks for watching. And, again, how this might relate to today's oracle card, the traveler, and having faith that you're where you need to be. Even if this is uncomfortable, you're exactly where you need to be on your path of learning, and to have the faith that it's going to end up where you need it to end up and in the best place for you. So anyhow, thanks for watching. And come back again on Monday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Click subscribe if you haven't. I'd love you to do that. I'm here on Mondays and Thursdays. We get together those 2 days out of the week. And we just take a look at how the cards and the runes can give us some additional information that maybe we hadn't thought of before when we're dealing with our life and everything that comes into it. So anyhow. Thanks again for watching. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.